you very much for coming. It makes my life so much easier.
Sweet. Glad I could do
Awesome.
that.
You're not driving, are you?
No, I'm passenger right now. We're about to get back.
Okay, perfect. As long as you're not driving. So the next quality check I want to do is can you see the PowerPoint that I'm going to be using today?
Yes.
Okay, and it says driving forces managing your fuel.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Just want to make sure because for some reason I'm not seeing a split screen. Normally I see the PowerPoint and I see myself and I see my people. But for some reason today it's not jiving. So I swear, and let alone having not a lot of student coming for obvious good reasons, my technology has been the worst this summer. So um, thank you for bearing with me through these 6 weeks
Yeah.
that we're together.
I've been
Um,
having some technology problems too. I get it.
yeah, it's crazy, right? So we've never met, right? This is the first time we're putting a name with a face. So I'd love to know a
Yes.
little bit about you. How's everything going on in the course for you thus far? So kind of just tell me some good introductions and information.
Well, obviously, I'm Nate. I'm a senior at UB. I study communications. Um, I think everything in the course has been pretty good so far. I'm a little behind right now because I was unable to log into UB Learns pretty much at all last week because I had
Okay.
lost, or I didn't lose my phone, but my phone had broken and I didn't get a replacement until the weekend, and I wasn't able to contact UB IT in time to get my Duo Push reset onto my new phone.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So I'm glad you recognize that you're a little bit behind. You're in good
Mm-hmm.
company. There's some super students that are already done, and then there's
Yeah.
middle of the road students, and then there's individuals that need to catch up. So just to do a little housekeeping, so you're fully aware, our last class is July 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So my last virtual class will be July 1st.
Okay.
Okay. So it is going to be important for you to catch up because right now my records show that you're on level one, mission three,
Yep.
and you need to get to level five, mission 17.
Okay.
Okay. So you got
Yep.
some work to do between now and next Friday. Um, the goal for you is so have you listened to any of the recordings? Has technology worked for you there?
I've listened to the first one.
Okay. All right. So the recordings are done in order of the online course, right? So
Mm-hmm.
level one is all about introduction, our human design, and really understanding our brain at work. Then level two continues that process, but then we start getting deeper into understanding our brain as file folders and how it stores information. And one of the factors that is stored through nature and nurture is your behaviors. So level three is all about behaviors. So that's how my recordings have gone. So introduction, let's just get to know each other, get the feel for the class. The second one is diving deeper into our human design. Our third class was about behaviors introduction. Well, first, let me back it up. Introduction of emotional intelligence, and then behaviors. And now this class is motivators. So we learned about how we do what we do because once we understand our how, our behaviors, and then understand and reconcile with what drives us, the why we do what we do, that knowledge, that insight, that self awareness is the bridge that helps you with what this class is all about effective communication and decision making. Hopefully, as you go through the sessions on the recordings, you are going to uncover that when we're under stress, good stress, I'm very aggravated, frustrated, fearful, or even I'm so ecstatic, happy, we know based on research, we're not in our good thinking brain. So it is false and it's an assumption that you can think clearly and make good decisions under stress. You have people in this world, HR managers, CEOs of the company, like, I do my best work when I'm under stress. I do my best work when I'm under pressure. I do my best work when I wait to the last minute and then I knock it out of the ballpark. We're not disagreeing with you, but what the research shows is that biologically it's not good for you. What the research shows is that under stress, we're not in our good thinking brain. And the more we move you from what we call, there's three levels of stress and three levels of threat, if you will. When you are stressed or under pressure, you're probably in level three threat, which is the highest. And you're not thinking clearly. You're in stranger danger mode. You are probably reacting to respond as opposed to reacting in a logical manner. So all that to say, we're looking to get down to a level two response rate and more importantly, a level one response rate. But you can't do that until you spend some time understanding what session one, two, and three is all about and how it correlates with the online course. So once
Okay.
you get going, Nate, and you advance yourself from level one and you start getting deeper into your own behaviors. Now, I believe you didn't take the assessment, which then you're taking general studies, because if you recall, you could customize it to yourself where you can get insider information of knowing what your behaviors are based
Mm-hmm.
on making that investment in that assessment. But it's not mandatory, but hopefully through that decision, you are taking general studies, but even with what you're learning, you can start because the behavioral language is observable. And we spent all last week diving deeper into it. Actually, we spent two sessions learning about behaviors and how someone does what they do and how it equates to occupations and how it equates to playing in a team and playing nice in the sandbox. And how, if I have a certain behavioral style, this is the best way to communicate to me and vice versa to people similar or opposite. So that's what we spent the two past weeks talking about. Now, as we advance and as you're going to hunker down and go into the online course, this will all make sense to you. So my advice is listen to the recordings first, then attack the online course. Um,
Mm-hmm.
to get to the point where this motivation, the why section that we're covering today, will all make sense to you. So I'm going to pause there
Okay.
because I did a very long-winded introduction for you as well as others who are listening of where you should be in the course.
Yeah, no, that was good. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Are you in a good spot still to continue to listen?
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to stay with me the whole time till 7 or like close to 7, or will you be leaving me? Like what is your agenda look like?
I should be able to stay the whole time.
Okay, perfect. Do you, although you're at level 1, mission 3, do you have any questions at this point about what you need to do in the course?
I do not think so. I'm not sure what you were mentioning about general studies
Yeah.
if I'm not doing the assessment.
So if you invest $129 to take the online assessment, which is different from the online course,
Mm-hmm.
then you will only be exposed to my lectures and what's in the online course. And then it's up to you to connect the dots of what you think your behaviors are, what you think your motivators are. If you were to say, Gene, I do want to buy the assessment to get a customized approach to this training, then you would make a payment to Caitlin at APA Solutions, and then you would take an online assessment where you spend some time, alone time, answering a questionnaire that describes you the most and the least. Then you get a report, a coaching report that helps you understand your behaviors in black and white, your motivators in black and white, and then your baseline of your emotional intelligence score and what you can do to improve your emotional intelligence to help you be more effective in order to communicate and make good decisions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Did I
Yes.
answer your
Perfect.
question?
Yes, you did.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. Excellent. Any other questions about this on the online course itself?
I I don't think so.
Okay. What I'd like to reiterate, just in case people are challenged in the online course, is if you recall, there's always going to be some type of video, a picture, and then a write up of what the content is, and then what your mission is, right? And a lot of times the mission is relating to the online assessment, right? So it gets a little confusing. So what I want to
Okay.
share with you is if you don't have the online assessment, do the best that you can to make an educated guess of where you think those behaviors and the motivators are to allow you to fill in your journal so you can advance to the next level.
Okay.
Okay, because you can't advance unless you fill out the online course questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, did
Yes.
you notice that in level one, mission one, two, and three?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any problems typing in there or
Nope.
responding to the journal?
No, it was good.
Okay. Anything you want to bring up to me in regards to what you've learned or any questions you have? Because if you have them, other students may have them.
I don't think so right now.
Okay. Okay. Well, once again, if you do, I'm right here for you. My cell phone number 716-908-4568, or just email me both at edu and my APA account. And if you want to have, even though this is kind of like a one-on-one session, but if you want a separate one-on-one session as you get closer into the materials, Nate, just text me and I'll make time after hours or on the weekend to work with
Okay.
you. Now, if you're challenged, and I did say that the last class is July 3rd, and then grades have to be entered shortly after that. If you set up an appointment with me prior to July 3rd, we can talk through how you're doing in the course. And if you're leaning more towards that 100% fulfillment, then I will mark you an A, but we can still work through any challenges that you have even after the third.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, so roll call. I think it's going to be important, especially the people who are going to be listening to this. I'm just going to go down and let every student know where they are in the course, and then just reiterate that they need to have the 100% coursework completed by July 3rd. So we have Sophia, who is at level 5, mission 16. We have Phil, level 4, mission 13. We have Lexi, level 3, mission 11. We have Nate, you know your level. Colin, we have level 4, mission 13. Jaden, or Matthew. Sometimes I always forget if it's a middle name or a first name. Um, Level 4, mission 13. Shakira, congratulations, you're all set. So just make sure you listen to the remaining webinars. You're at 100%. Hugh Wan, you're at level 4, 13%. Stephanie, KACAU, you haven't even started the course, so we need to get you on track. Please email me as soon as possible. Dylan, you're at level 5, mission 17. Joey, you are at level 2, mission 6. Corey, level 5, mission 6, which call me Corey because your level and where you are in the mission do not add up. So I am wondering if you're not filling out the journal. So Corey, please give me a call at 716-908-4568. William, you're at level 5. You completed 100%. Good job. Casey, you just started, so let's make sure we get it done by July 3rd. Zach, you know where you are. We just had our one-on-one, level 2, mission 6. Anthony, level 2, mission 8. And Nadrira Asha, you're at level 4, mission 14. And then Ava, you're at level 3, mission 11. So a lot of good stuff happening here. I imagine everyone feels like they're in a good spot because it's not a hard course. It really is just a course to help you with self-awareness. It is a course to get you ready for the real world in the sense of behavioral styles you may come across, decisions you need to make, and learn better ways to communicate to people who are similar to you or opposite of you. And that really is my hope and our goal for today. and the 6 weeks that we've been together is to truly sit in self-awareness to help you become the better version of yourself and enhance your emotional intelligence. So, any housekeeping questions, Nate, before I dive into the material?
No, I'm good, I think.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to keep my screen the way it is, where you see the presentation, and then on the side are the rest of my slides, just it helps me move things along. So right now we are tapping into driving forces, managing your fuel. We are going to be uncovering today the managing branch of EQ. We're getting to get a better understanding of your why, what gets you up in the morning, what drives you. And then we're going to be connecting EQ behaviors and motivators together. And next week, when we get together, we're going to round out with and finalize with emotional intelligence, and continue the dialogue as we bridge all these three sciences together. If you recall the emotional intelligence branches, you may have seen this in our second session after introductions, where I introduced to you emotional intelligence in these branches, because as you build your competencies, it is going to be critical as a single contributor, a staff member, an associate, a team player, or as you rise up into a leadership position. Emotional intelligence is as equally as important as intelligence, your IQ. So, yes, it's very important to make sure that you guys get your grades in, and everyone's striving, I am sure, for a 3.5 or higher. There's no shame in 2.5, but you want to make sure that you kind of you can always remember that you can always learn and increase that score based on training, studying, and etc. So when you look at the union between EQ and emotional intelligence and building that skill, the first step to that is perceiving one's emotion, your own emotions, and then even the people that you're working with, their emotions. So it's really taking an appraise, taking an inventory, looking at the expressed emotion that is happening between two human interactions. And then how are they using those emotions, and how are you using what you're seeing, what you're perceiving, to be able to facilitate your cognitive processes to then help you understand. So if you're seeing a brow on an individual move up, that can be a multitude of different things. It could mean that they're inquisitive. It could mean that they're in pain. It could mean a multitude of different things. But you, as a person in this interaction, it is now a superpower to be able to understand, once you perceive, what is how it's linked to the interaction or the relationship, and then how do I manage it? Do I need to de-escalate the situation? Do I need to mirror the situation? It's really managing the emotions to prompt an emotional, intellectual, and personal growth through that interaction. So we talk about self, but then we also talk about managing other and managing an openness to these feelings, because you learn from session 2 that having emotions, male or female, it is important to our human design. Because if I ever said to Nate, don't get upset, it's almost liking it to Nate, stop breathing. That's how critical it is to our human design, because it really, our brain, as you learned, it takes shortcuts, and we go into our storage system and we're pulling out of our storage system that file folder in that moment in time, in that reaction period, in order to protect us. And you're learning that we're always surveilling the land to make a judgment, to say good or bad, threat or reward, fear or love. We're always surveilling. And I think it's important to reiterate that we have 5 times more real estate dedicated to threat as a human being than we do love and reward. So it's a natural primal instinct for us when we read something, when we tell a story about something, it usually tends to go a little bit on the dark side because of that need to protect. So I'll pause there. Nate, when you learned about the emotional intelligence branches from the introduction the last time we got together, or the recordings you may have listened to, anything resonate with you? Does this look familiar? Have you learned about the emotional intelligence branches in any of your classes?
No, I haven't learned about any of them, but it does make sense, I guess.
Okay, excellent. So part of what could ignite us or what could activate our behaviors or take away from our behaviors of how we do what we do is your motivators, your driving forces. And I'm going to go through and talk about the 6 primary motivators that we have, and very similar to the how we do it. When we looked at those primary dimensions and you watch that video of the dramatic display of what a D, what an I, what an S, and a C is in that cute video that I sent over to you, that dramatic display can make that D go even higher based on where their motivators are. And then that is the same for all the dimensions that you learned in the last 2 sessions. So when we look at driving forces, and it's the why you do what you do, we have to remember that there are 2 types of motivators. One is your primal motivator, which is the drive to really need the basic necessities. So it's food, sleep, and of course, our brain is always looking to avoid pain. These motivators are inspired by those external factors. We do it because we are obligated to do so. Because perhaps because you're being told to do something, or because it was given to you or directive by a higher status than you. That's one when you go primal, or the need for food, right, or sleep. The Maslow theory, if you will, the hierarchy of the Maslow theory, are your primal motivators. Your personal motivators is what brings you to the reward state of your brain. So it moves us and it gives us joy. And that's where we see the dopamine going throughout our body. We get a high from it because it's what drives us, and we feel the reward and want to keep that reward in a loop because our brain likes it. These motivators come from within, typically because they are aligned with your personal values or they bring some sort of pleasure. So, Nate, if you're still with me, because I can't see you right now, what if you were to just speak from your heart, speak from your thought process, what language would you put around motivators? What gets you up in the morning? Let's hear some language.
Um, I would say success is one of them.
Okay, excellent. So success, getting yourself to the next level. What is success for you?
Um, kind of having enough money to do the things I want to do in life.
Excellent, excellent. Anything else?
Um, Others like serving others, I'd say.
Okay. Anything else?
Um, no, I think that's all.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for playing. So, as we go through this, you're going to hear terminology around what you just described, because if you recall from, I say recall, if you listen to the webinars, if you name it, right, you can claim it and then you can manage it, right? So that's why language is so important to us as humans, because it helps us identify and categorize and understand once we put words and language around it. So that's what we're going to do for the motivators, which then becomes driving forces. So, what is a motivator? A motivator impels our actions. I said it earlier, it's our why. And the way we act, the way we do, while our behaviors represent how we act. Our why can initiate and change our how depending on the propensity of those motivators or driving forces. Motivators are what we value positively or judge negatively in life. We do see the world through the windows of our motivators, colored by our top two. So if you took the assessment, you will be able to see your top two motivators. And then you will now have an understanding that you're really what the lens you're looking through are from those motivators. Now, if you didn't take the assessment, you're just going to have to use this PowerPoint and maybe circle what resonates with you. And then we can agree that based on the top four you circled, the top two for sure is what you will see the world through. Two people with the same motivators can have different beliefs, they can have different behaviors, but still value the same things in life. So if you recall from behaviors, and similar to this fourth statement, this fourth bullet, you could have people who are similar in behaviors. So I'm a high I, you're a high I. You would think that we would naturally get along. But if our motivators are different, that could be an Achilles heel as well, not knowing it. So a perfect example that I'll give you, myself, high I, my partner, business manager, Caitlin, who would administer the assessment. She's also a high I, but where we differ is a motivator called structure. I have lack of structure. She has full-blown structure. So you can imagine that our tips, our arguments are coming from our views, our perspective of how a form should be filled out. She was like, wants to follow to the T, to the rule, through the process, and I will probably do it sometimes. And that's where we get in a lot of our arguments. So it's just good to know, because when you start feeling that aggravation come between, you're like, wait a minute, she is just overusing her motivator and I'm underusing that motivator. So let's all agree to disagree, but come to a compromise. So as you look at that, the next bullet is motivators are less changeable than behaviors. So although we learn that behaviors are based on nature and nurture, it's who you are, it's how you show up to work, and then it can change. Behaviors can change if you change your thoughts. You can change your behaviors. Your behaviors can change if you have a life-changing event. Like Zach, who was on earlier, he took my Principles and Techniques of Interviewing class, which I'm doing it again this fall. And he took the assessment then, and he took it in 2023. He's retaking it because he wants to see 2020, oh my God, I can't even talk. 2023 Zach, has he changed now that he's 2026 Zach and getting ready to graduate? And we'll see, because he's retaking the assessment, which is awesome. So motivators are least changeable. And the reason why they're least changeable is because once you have them, they're your convictions. So you hold on to them and they become part of your filing cabinet. Any questions about motivators before I go into describing the motivators?
Not me.
Okay, thank you. So we have 6 keywords for driving forces, because the first 6 keywords are the original motivators that, through research, through studies, have developed what individuals are primarily motivated by. So those 6 keywords, as you can see from the slide, is knowledge, utility, surroundings, others, power, and methodologies. Now, very similar to behaviors, you have a high side and a low side. No different when we're talking about what becomes now driving forces. Driving forces of knowledge, the high side of knowledge becomes intellectual, and the opposite side of that, or the low side of that, becomes instinctive. I'm going to go through the definitions on the next slide, but I just kind of want to flush out when your utility. So I want to see a return on time, money, and investment. The high side is resourceful. The low side is selfless. Surroundings, which is aesthetics, seeing form and harmony within the world, hence the name. The high side becomes harmonious, and the opposite side or the low side becomes objective. They don't need that form and harmony. They don't need aesthetics. They can just put their blinders on and look at things very objectively. Others is people. So I am motivated by serving others. I love others. I want to be by others. It motivates me. The high side is altruistic, and then the opposite side is intentional. I still like people, but I'm going to really help people for a specific purpose. There has to be some type of intentionalness there. Power, which is I want to see myself get to the next level. I do appreciate recognition, and I do appreciate status. So maybe a title is important to me, or being recognized as the leader of an organization is important to me. That high side of power becomes a commanding, and then the opposite side, where they prefer to be in a supportive role, becomes collaborative. Methodologies is what I talked earlier about my counterpart, is the high side of methods. I love a system in which I live in. It could be a political system. It could be a religious system. It could just be my system because I'm right. That becomes structure. And then the opposite of that is I love to look at old problems in a new way. I'm receptive to new ideas, and I can think outside the box. That's receptive. So once again, very similar to behaviors, there's no right or wrong here. This is just truly what drives you, what you've stored in your file folder, and how you may see the world. If you see the world, then you may see an interaction amongst two people, amongst a group, that now you can see what could affect that relationship, what could affect that communication, and what could affect any type of decision-making power based on what we have stored in our 3-pound command center called our brain. Any questions so far, Nate?
No?
Okay. So now this is where you get to, I would get a marker, a pen, or, when you get the PowerPoint, when I put it on UB Learns, you can circle what's important to you. And this is what are your top 4 is where you want to lean, but I wouldn't stop there. I'd rank them. Like, just because altruistic is number 1 here on my slide doesn't mean it's your number 1. So I empower you to look at your 12 and rank them 1 through 12 of what you feel is important to you. It's kind of like doing your own assessment without actually taking the online assessment, if you will. But if you did, you'd have this information right in front of you. Okay, so going back to you, Nate, you first said money. I'm interested in getting myself to the next level, and I'm interested in making sure I'm successful and can support myself, and whatever you deem is a lot of money, you achieve. So now you know a little bit about the definitions and you're looking at the slide. Which motivator could you align with?
Would it be resourceful?
Excellent. Bingo. And there's one more.
And um maybe I don't know, intentional.
Okay. It could be. I was so leaning towards I want to get myself and or make the money that I deem successful. I agree with you. It's resourceful, but you could be coming in commanding. People who are driven by status, recognition, control over their personal freedom. So you really you could be the type of person who's motivated by autonomy. Tell me what to do and let me just go do it. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
so.
Okay, so those two we can say, so you would be circling 8 and 10. And then the other thing is serving others. So what's interesting, which other are you? Are you altruistic, number 1? Or are you intentional, as you mentioned just a minute ago, number 12?
I would say
Which one?
altruistic.
Okay. So with altruism, you tend to kind of like help others. You tend to step up when someone needs help. If someone dropped a pen, you're picking it up. You might join a lot of nonprofits or go to some walkathons, contribute maybe your money to nonprofits. Does that sound like you?
Yeah.
Okay. So people who are driven to assist others just for the satisfaction to be helpful or supportive. So that's your third motivator. So now out of all these, harmonious, selfless, receptive, collaborative, intellectual, instinctive, structured, objective, or intentional, which one resonates with you?
I would say collaborative.
Okay. So people who
Or
are driven by being in a supporting role and contributing with little need for individual recognition.
yes.
Okay. So 5 and 8, you can see are opposites. But that's okay because if you were taking the report, you may come across with 5 and 8 as being your situational motivators. So depending on the situation, depends on which motivating factor will shine more than the other. So in the online assessment, people are made up of primary motivators, so your top 4, then your situational, which are your next 4, and then your indifferent, where I'm not motivated by this at all. So if someone's more intentional than altruistic, you don't want to put them on your Christmas party, right? Because that might not be a purpose in which they want to contribute to. Altruistic people, they'll want to be on every committee. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So have you ever heard of the term growth versus fixed mindset?
I don't think of as a term, but maybe as an idea.
Okay. So in the educational community as well as now bleeding into the corporate community, the working community, growth versus fixed mindset is how do I describe it? It is a thought. It is um a proven understanding through the work of Dr. Carol Dweck. She wrote a book about growth versus fixed mindsets and has proof that if you adopt a growth mindset, which truly believes you can learn and you can grow, and that the old thought process of you can't teach a dog new tricks is a false is a belief, right? um, You'll end up hugging your fixed mindset because a fixed mindset will hold on to if you use the analogy of the filing cabinet, they will hold on to that filing cabinet. They're going to hold on to their perceived notions, their what they've stored throughout their nature and nurture. A growth mindset is taking inventory of that file folders, of saying, okay, this served me well today, but is it going to serve me well into the future? Now, individuals, as you know, because there's no two brains that think alike, have their own storage system, but you also have a company storage system where they also have a set of beliefs, values, understanding of how we behave at APA Solutions. What becomes a lot more interesting, if you will, when you start learning this information is that you're going to be looking at how do my behaviors, how do my motivators, now that I'm learning so much about them, How do they help me or hinder me to do the job that I want to do? So tell me, Nate, what are you hoping to do after you graduate?
I'm not exactly sure. I want to do something in the sports media industry though.
Okay. So do you know what, like when you think of sports media industry, are you thinking sales, PR, marketing, reporting, operations, running the facility? What from there, based on what I just shared, what resonates with you?
I was more so thinking reporting, but any of them would be something I'd be interested in.
Okay. So as you become a reporter and as you start compiling your articles and sharing your articles on social media or even, doing some reels on TikTok to promote a brand of a sporting event you're going to, you're going to have to look and say, do these motivators help me or hurt me? Obviously, being resourceful and commanding, I would say absolutely, but being collaborative and harmonious may hinder you, because if you have a harmonious motivator where you're looking for the experience and the balance of your surroundings, getting people to comment on your TikTok feed and then being argumentative or bringing up conflict could be going against your harmonious motivator, right? But if you're like, bring it on, I'll take on the haters, you might be able to easily be more motivated to do it based on having a motivator of receptive or even commanding or resourceful or even intellectual, because you're inquisitive and you want to like, oh, I wonder why they thought that way, and then spin it in a way. So when you have a growth mindset, it's allowing yourself to truly believe you can learn. And when you look at the types of motivators, the 1 through 12, if you take on or if you're connected to the 1 through 6, altruistic, harmonious, selfless, receptive, collaborative, intellectual, I just want to make sure I'm right. That side of the left side, that leans towards a growth mindset. If you're married to instinctive, commanding, structure, resourceful, objective, or intentional, that leads to a fixed mindset. And just remember, I don't want you to look at fix as being a negative word. I want you to look at fix as being, I'm going to hold on to my filing folders. I'm going to be at a fixed understanding of what I can achieve and or what others can achieve, or you know what, this is going to be my way and no one else's way. It could go either way. We don't know the situation, but it's just good to know about how these motivators can move you to growth or to fix. Now, a healthy thought process is to toggle between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, right? Because we have our file cabinet fixed mindset where it's there for a reason. We stored it for a reason. But now it's all important about taking inventory of it. What do we want to keep? What do we need to purge? What do we need to expand in order to accomplish the goals that we set forth? So there's no right or wrong. It's just a new level of awareness of understanding. So those are the types of motivators. Many of you will, if you've taken the assessment, you will now start seeing how these motivators look on a graph. And when you look at how driving forces play into emotional intelligence, is it drives you to be a more emotional. So if you love people, as you had said, but that motivator was taken away from you and you couldn't help, that could trigger you. That could activate you. That can make you cranky. That can make you miserable. That can make you stressed. And knowing this then allows you to kind of put the tools in place to help you get closer from that annoyance to that frustration to that stress level from 3 back to 1. So I'm going to pause there and get your thoughts, Nate, on what I just said.
Um, I did miss a little bit of the end there.
Oh, okay. So you can say pass.
I'll pass on this one.
Okay, not a problem. So that is not the end of our session, but that is the end of my PowerPoint because this is correlating to people who do have their assessments. Because then we just go back to having an open conversation of, what's going to hinder you as you proceed with your occupation of choice. Can't really do takeaways with everybody else, but if you guys want to email me your takeaways about what you learned from up to date in regards to your online course and or your the videos you've been watching, etc., I welcome that. So the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to go to a video. So we can take a commercial break as it might take me a minute to get the video up. I'm going to share my screen. Hey, Corey, I didn't realize you were here. Welcome.
Yeah, I came in about 15 minutes ago.
Okay, so Corey, while I'm trying to find the video that we're going to put up, how are you feeling in the online course? Because the data says to me that you are interesting enough at level 5, but mission 6. So it's not adding up in my world. Are you able to go through each level and each mission and write down in your journal?
Um, it skipped a little ahead on me because I pressed the wrong button, but I'm on level 2 right now.
Okay, so it'll probably catch up when you are able to complete everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Where should we be at this point?
At this point, you should be in level 3.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we'll get that done by the time next week's class rolls around.
Yep, no problem. So to kind of for your sake, since it was just 15 minutes ago, couple important housekeeping that I want to reiterate from earlier is that the last day of class is July 3rd. Our last class ever, virtual, is July 1st. Everything needs to be done by July 3rd.
Okay. Roger that.
Okay, so any questions around that?
That's the graded part of the class, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the only mandatory email that I requested from everybody was what have been your takeaways when you watched all the videos, not only the virtual lectures I've been doing, but also the 3 videos I sent your way from emotional intelligence, miscommunication, and the identifying DISC behavioral styles. So I just would need to see that email from you, and you can send it on July 3rd what your takeaways were from this course.
Okay, I sent you the email about the videos already.
Oh, then you're good. Good job.
But there's another one about the takeaways of the course in general.
No, it was all in one email.
Oh,
Yep, you're
okay.
good.
Well, maybe I'll send. I only kind of elaborated on the videos, so I guess I can send another one to talk about the class itself.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, anything, your feedback is number one, your feedback's very important, but I would just love to learn what you learned. Make
And
sense?
yeah, and do you when you grade the missions, can you see what we wrote?
No, that's your personal journal. So if there's anything you want to bring up of what you wrote, then you need to sidebar with a one-on-one.
Okay.
Yeah, but that is your own journal. So the way you get graded is by completing the missions.
Okay.
And I was telling Nate, this is like the most unique class I've ever had, because usually when I teach summer or winter, I have the majority of the class show up so I can get a pulse on how everyone's doing. This has been unique for me because everyone has been, I understand, busy working. It's only supposed to be an online course, but now I've learned a lesson from this where I might embed more of these, send me a recap of what you learned in level 1, just so I know you guys are retaining the information. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. All right. So now then, any other questions, Corey, about the online course, about the assessment, their lack of, or what's due?
I think that's about it.
Okay, excellent. So now I want to just share with this video because I think it really hits the point home in regards to starting with why. So Corey or Nate, can you see I'm sharing a YouTube channel? Can you see it?
I do not see it right now.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, let me find it first. Okay, are you seeing it now?
I can see it now.
Okay, excellent. So I'm just gonna do play.
The accuracy that matters.
AI makes it so we don't have to make that choice anymore. We can have both.
So where do you start?
So could you hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you have a program that's about integrating life's passions, well, you start with why. Why? And that kicks us off for the first speaker tonight, Simon Sinek, in his talk, Start with Why.
Okay, I just paused him for a second. Have either of you heard of Simon Sinek?
I haven't not.
No, okay. So I just wanted to put that on your inspirational talker list because he is amazing. He does short clips. He's worked with companies throughout the world. He's just I just love him. So I just wanted to plug him based on other things I've seen besides this video.
We assume even we know why we do what we do. But then how do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery, and this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat-screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat-screen TVs. They've been making flat-screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products. And nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, you know, there's if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the dot-com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers' team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight. And no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, that's an amazing discovery, guys. Now we'll improve upon your technology. But he didn't. He wasn't first. He didn't get rich. He didn't get famous. So he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10% proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling, oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap, that you have to close, as Geoffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat-screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, or stood in line for 6 hours, was because of what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They were extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR all the time. But TiVo is a commercial failure. They've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and then plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you, we don't need it, we don't like it, you're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example of the law of diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad, but he had a gift. He didn't go around telling people what needed to change in America. He went around and told people what he believed. I believe, I believe, I believe, he told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own, and they told people. And some of those people created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel on a bus for 8 hours to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed, and it wasn't about black versus white. 25% of the audience was white. Dr. King believed that there are 2 types of laws in this world, those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. And not until all the laws that are made by man are consistent with the laws that are made by the higher authority will we live in a just world. It just so happens that the civil rights movement was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to life. We followed him not for him, but for ourselves. And by the way, he gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans. They're not inspiring anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. Whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead not for them, but for ourselves. And it's those who start with why that have the ability to inspire those around them or find others who inspire them. Thank you very much.
Okay, Nate and Corey, you still with me?
Yeah.
All right. So takeaways, thoughts when you heard Simon talk about the why. What were your takeaways?
Well, obviously the biggest one, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I liked when he talked about not going from the outside in, going through what, how, and why, and going backwards
Mm-hmm.
actually, and going why, how, and what to better influence behavioral change, I guess.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent takeaway. Corey, anything you want to add?
No, there was definitely some interesting historical points in there, like the Wright brothers and Apple and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when I listened, obviously you guys, I teach this with 2 professionals probably every quarter, if not more. And I listen to it every single time, and I always have a different takeaway. And what I learned this time around was we were talking about what we believe, right? And the why someone does what they do. And it's getting their buy-in based on mutual understanding and mutual whys. But then I also recognize that as humans, we are innately selfish, right? We buy things, we react to things, we join things, we do all these things. And at the end of the day, it's because it moves us, it thrills us, it motivates us, right? And I just thought that that was an interesting point where it just hit home more for me. I'm like, gosh, not only is our body trying to protect us, but as humans, we are innately selfish and that comes out possibly in protecting ourselves or driven by things that motivate us. Like we're not doing it to motivate someone else usually. So I just thought that was an interesting takeaway for me. We're complicated, aren't we?
Very.
Yeah. So I want you guys to think about this, continue on now. You're all primed to continue with, I believe, I think I said, Corey, you should be a 3 at this point, but I think it's 4. I do apologize. 4 is Motivators, level 4. So everyone should be at level 4. Continuing down the self-awareness journey. And then when we get back next week, we're going to kind of bring everything together. It's going to be some Q&A, and then we'll end with bookending it like we started, which is emotional intelligence as a whole and how this can be summed up to help us with effective communication and decision making. Sound good?
Yeah.
Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Not for me.
All right. Well, thank you very much for attending, you guys. You made this session so much more enjoyable. Thanks for your input and your participation, and hopefully we'll see you on July 1st at 6 o'clock.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye, guys.
All right, there are 5 missions in total, correct?
5 missions in totals, but the last mission is like 1. Congratulations.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, I probably can look right now. Let me look right now while you're on the line. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. All right, so I'm looking up to see what the levels are. So we have level 1 introductions, level 2 behaviors. I was right first time around, not the second time around. Level 3 is motivators, which is what we just discussed today. And then level 4 is emotional intelligence. And level 5 is just mission 17, and it just says congratulations.
Okay. And that's all due on July 3rd?
Correct.
And that's the last day of class?
That's the last day of class, and then I have to put grades in.
Okay. How are we all standing grade-wise?
Everyone's doing really well. Everyone who's aware of their situation is aware of their situation. You specifically, it's saying to me that you're at level 5, but you said, thank you for being honest. You're actually at level 2. So I appreciate that. But
Yeah, I had pressed the wrong button, unfortunately, when I was going through that. I didn't realize that you could, actually unlock the other levels before you finish the other ones.
You're not supposed to, so I have to look into that. Everything should be locked down. Like, you can't advance unless you fill out the questions and press the next button on the bottom. But that's
I'm finishing up level 2 right now.
Okay. Yep. So right now, if you're finishing level 2, you should ready to go to level 3, right? So right now, everyone should be at level 3. So you're not too far behind.
All right.
Next week, people should be at level 4.
Okay.
And then obviously on July 3rd, when you're done, it's level 5.
So our next meeting is our last.
Our next meeting is our last meeting virtually. Yep. Which is July 1st.
Well, I'll be there.
Okay, awesome, Corey. And hey, if you want to do some one-on-one coaching once you get to finish level 3, I'm happy to do that next week after hours, though, unfortunately.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Corey. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.